One, two. Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English file lesson. My name is Karabo Day. This lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. Grade 12 learners, you are able to get in touch with us on this WhatsApp interactive number 064 748 8913. I repeat, 064 748 8913. Our lesson today is on literature short stories. In 2023, these are the short stories that we studied at school. Forbidden Love by Ken Temba, Rejection by Marian Ba, Evelyn Agnesim, A Bag of Sweets by Catherine Mansfield, Glass Act, written by Namhla Chisana, The Wind and the Boy, written by Bessie Head, The Girl Who Can by Ama Ata Aidu. Lastly, Triumph in the Face of Adversity, written by Gidiboni Seko. Learners, study all these short stories thoroughly to prepare for your oncoming examination. Remember, you will only be tested on 2. Therefore, it is imperative for you to study all of them thoroughly. What you must know for any of these short stories, you must know a plot, what the story is all about. You are going to learn, or you have learned, about the characters of all these short stories. Who is involved in the story? You must also know the language that we use in literature. We have specific language that we use. For instance, I have told you now about the plot, and I have told you about the characters. Theme. The message that the author wants you to learn from the short story. Very important. You also learn about the setting where the story takes place. And importantly, you can have 2 different types of setting. The one is about the general setting of the story as a whole. But closer to home, we look at the settings of every particular extract. So you should be able to identify or to tell us about the setting and what takes place in that setting. The character traits. What these people do. These are adjectives that we use to identify or to define characters in the story. Who they are, what they do. And how do we know their character traits? By the words that they say or the actions that they perform. State of mind. How they feel when saying particular words or when they are involved in a particular extract. Their state of mind. Learners, do not forget to learn or to study your figures of speech. You know them. Your simile, your metaphor. onomatopoeia. Those are your personification. Those are your figures of speech. Irony. We all know what irony is. Okay. Tone. The tone that the particular character uses, or the tone of the story. The story that we're going to discuss this afternoon is Triumph in the Face of Adversity, written by Gidiboni Seku. Is the title of the story suitable? This can also be an exam question, and we call it an open-ended question. As you read all the 8 short stories, take time to reflect whether the title of a particular story is suitable or not, and give reasons. Let's look at our story of focus this afternoon. Triumph. What is triumph? A triumph is a great victory or achievement, a success story, something that you achieve. So we say that's triumph. What is adversity? Adversity is a difficult or unpleasant situation. Difficult. So a person goes through a crisis, and that is what? Adversity. The story portrays the main character's journey from a challenging and adverse environment to eventually achieving success. Our main character in the story goes through challenges, a period of adversity, and then through the journey, she eventually achieves success. And that success, which aligns with the idea of triumph over adversity. So we are correct to say the title is suitable because what the main character has gone through, the hardships that the character goes through, ultimately culminates to success. Here's how the title suits the story with examples from the text. When we write or discuss or think about open-ended questions or any question whatsoever, we are not thinking general, but we are thinking text, what the story is all about. It must be grounded in the text of the short story. Adversity in family life. The narrator's mother suffers from an abusive relationship, and the family faces poverty. The adverse conditions at home, that's what now? It sets the stage for the concept of adversity in the story. Here we have husband and wife and children, and the father is abusive. The mother is going through the most. And what happens? It lays a foundation of the adversity in the story. Let's go on. We have determination and resilience. Our main character, Tulisile, faces the adversity head on. She takes on the responsibility of caring for her younger siblings. She maintains their basic needs and protects them from their abusive father. She also does something very critical here. She also strives for a better life through education. Thrive through education. Despite her challenging circumstances, Thulisile is determined to excel in her studies. She is encouraged by a teacher who tells her to focus and take control of her situation through education. At first, it sounds rough, isn't it? That when you are crying and somebody says, "No, I don't expect this. I expect you to perform 100% in class," in spite of the fact that you are going through difficulties. This guidance marks the beginning of her triumph over adversity. She makes a choice that through it all, through the storm, I will survive. Her teacher said, "You can," and now she's going to do what? She's doing her utmost. Thulisile's perseverance and dedication lead her to secure a job as a TV presenter. So her career grows, and she also has personal growth, which transforms her life from poverty to a more prosperous and fulfilling one. Her journey from a struggling student to a successful TV star reflects her triumph over adversity, reflects her crisis, her difficulty, her problems that are overcome. And now she is a successful TV star presenter. Let's look at the plot of the story. The story is about a young girl, a young lady, Thulisile, who is our narrator as well as the main character. She appears at her mother's gravesite and a flashback of events unfolds. Remember, she's there at the gravesite. She looks at the grave and she doesn't tear up. She doesn't cry. She remembers what happens at the back, what unfolded. She tells a story, a very sad one for that matter, about her mother's marriage to her father. Thulisile's mother's marital suffering leads her to move to a squatter camp with her husband and her children. After Thulisile's father loses his job, he becomes abusive towards his family. The narrator works hard to change the situation at home. Thulisile eventually gets employed as a TV presenter and can afford to buy a house. Thulisile's father dies, and only then does her mother move in with her into a proper house. Sadly, her mother dies. Her mother is too weak and dies. Let's look at the phrase tag. Our title again is Triumph Over Adversity, told by Kidiboni Seko. We have our exposition. We check at the characters. Where is the story taking place? In a squatter camp, Phambili Squatter Camp. There's the setting. Where? In Phambili Squatter Camp. The time, the background on Tembekile's dreams and aspirations. The strained relationship between Thulisfile's family and her grandmother, Madlamini. Who is the antagonist in the story? Jabulani, who is Thulisfile's father. Then the protagonist is Thulisile and Thulisfile's mother, who is Tembekile. Right. Then we have a rising action. The exposition is where the story starts. And then we check who are our characters and we check where the story is taking place, that is in Pambili squatter camp. The rising action. Thulisile tells how her father abuses her mother and how they struggle to survive. That's the conflict there. She works hard to support her family by doing various jobs such as cleaning and selling sweets. She follows her teacher's advice and gets a job at a fish and chips shop where she learns new skills. She becomes a TV presenter, changing her life and fulfilling her dreams. She just does not sit there and despair and say it is the end. We have an inciting incident that makes the conflict be at the top. Thulisfile's decision to quit school due to a difficult home life and poor grades sets the story's plot in motion. And then we speak about the conflict, right? The central conflict in the story is between Thulisfile's desire, it's an inner conflict, Thulisfile's desire to improve her family's life and her father's opposition. Here she is, she wants to improve the family's life. And then on the other hand, the father is thwarting the dreams. Thulisfile works at a fish and chip shop and plans to start her own business, hoping to escape the life of poverty and abuse. And then what happens on the other side? On the other hand, her father, Jabulani, does not support her and even takes her money. Isn't it sad? Creating a clash between Thulisfile's goals and her father's tyranny. This conflict grows as Thulisfile tries to take charge of her life and create a better future for herself and her siblings. Then we reach the climax that is at the top of the story now. Thulisfile defies her father. Remember, we have exposition, we have the rising action and the conflict there at the top. Then the climax is Thulisfile decides to buy a house, signaling what? That she is an independent girl and her determination to create a better life for her family. Her father's reluctance to support her and her mother's refusal to leave her abusive husband creates tension within the family. Mom, here I am. I've bought a house for us. Let's leave Dad. Dad is abusive. And the mother said, I'm going to stay with my husband. And that breaks Thulisfile's heart. The falling action now. Thulisfile continues to work towards her goal of purchasing a house despite her family's initial resistance. She successfully achieves her dreams, her dream of being a homeowner, but her father and mother choose not to live with her. Then at the end of the story, the resolution, Thulisfile reflects on her journey, acknowledges her mother's difficult position, and her own triumph over adversity. Despite the challenges and unresolved family issues, Thulisfile's story ends on a note of hope and possibility for the future. Okay. Now let's look at setting. What is setting? Where and when a story takes place. That is the whole environment in which the characters live. Can you see there? Phambili squatter camp. And when you look at setting, these are the things that we look at. We emphasize time, that is the when. We also look at the location, that is the place. We also look at the weather, the physical setting, and the atmosphere. And all these aspects create what we call setting. Let's look at each setting in our story, Triumph in the Face of Adversity. First setting was the grandmother's home. Can you see the grandmother's house there? Yes. What does it represent? It represents a traditional and a rural environment. It also symbolizes the clash of cultural values between Tulisile's parents. Remember how the grandmother used to complain a lot about Tulisile's mom? Yes, that's a clash of values. Then we have the second setting, which is Phambili Squatter Camp. Can you see the squatter camp there? What does it represent, or what is its significance? It signifies poverty, squalor, and harsh living environment. People living on top of each other. It highlights the challenging conditions faced by Tulisile's family. It's a harsh life. And then we have the third setting as the school. What does it signify? The school signifies, or it represents Tulisile's aspiration for education and a better life. There is contrast between school and home, and that the struggles that she goes through at home. School is peaceful, isn't it? We escape from home, the harsh realities of home, to school, and school gives us hope. The fourth setting in Triumph in the Face of Adversity is the fish and chips shop. It marks a transition to a more independent and financial stable life. It represents the turning point in Tulisile's journey. Tulisile's new home. Finally, she has a new home. It symbolizes what? Her achievement and success in escaping adversity. It represents a fresh start and the possibility of a better future. So, all these settings, adversity, a bit of hope, finally, success. Theme. What is a theme? A theme is it represents a cream-filled cupcake. When you look at these cupcakes, they have filling on top of cream and thousand sweets there with the beautiful colors. So when you look at it, what do? You want to go in deep into the cupcake and eat and feel the deliciousness and the sweetness of the cupcake with a story as well. A theme is the cream filling is hidden inside a cupcake. Themes are hidden inside a book. Think for yourself. What does the author hope the reader realizes? Let's look at some famous examples. These are the stories that you know from your childhood. Little Red Riding Hood. You remember Little Red Riding Hood? The theme there is what? Appearances can be deceiving. The Three Little Pigs. You remember the story of the Three Little Pigs? Hard work and perseverance pays off in the end. That's our theme. The Little Red Hen. What is the theme of the Little Red Hen? The laziness can have negative consequences. Themes are universal, and in all the stories, themes are different, but as we read, you will see that they are touching on, it could be love, war, coming of age, redemption, survival, betrayal, friendship, justice, courage, power, revenge, good versus evil, family, fate and free will, as well as death. These are the things that I can think of now, but there are much more other themes. We are not going to cram or memorize themes, but as we read, we must read critically and be able to identify the message of the story or of the book. I told you earlier about irony. And what is irony? Irony is an outcome of events that opposite of what was expected. This is what we expected, but at the end, something else happens. Let's look at Tulisile's life. When she bought a house, that's success, isn't it? They've been living in a poor environment and the mother in an abusive relationship. This gives her an opportunity to run away, to escape the tyranny. But what does she do? We expect her to follow Tulisile and go live with Tulisile. But what happens? She remains with her husband. And that's ironic. For example, let's look at another example. A child runs away from someone throwing water balloon. And what happens? She wants to run away and be dry on dry land. The child falls into a pool of water, but was running away from what? From a water balloon. Can you see the irony? Yes, I hope you see it. Good. We have verbal irony. It's when what is said is the opposite of the truth. We have situational irony. That's the one that I've just explained to you. And we also have verbal irony, when what is said is the opposite of the truth. Look at the picture here. What a beautiful day. I'm sure you're experiencing it outside today. It's been gloomy. The rain has fallen. It's been a little bit chilly and nippy today. And here I come and say, wow, what a beautiful day. And we say that is verbal irony. I hope you're going to give examples of irony as you go, or ironic situation as you go home with your friends and say, oh, this has happened, but there's ironic. Now let's read together an extract from Triumph in the Face of Adversity and see if we can answer the questions that follow. Tulisile's mother's funeral. The only time she came to stay with us was after the funeral. She was very sick and fragile. No amount of care and doctor's visits made her better. It was clear that she was not even attempting to fight back. Before we had a chance to make amends, she died. Instead of me feeling my grief, I let anger in the way. It was at her funeral that I realized she was also an injured party. The man who had made endless promises to her of a happy life had in fact let her down. And instead of getting herself out of the situation, she decided to stay because she did not want to appear a failure. That was a costly mistake. An error that nearly scarred us for life. As I poured soil into her grave, I decided it was time to heal, bury the past, and open a door to the future. It is true that I had a difficult life, but I survived and came out a stronger woman that I am today. I'm also thankful that I came across people who had faith in me and gave me the strength to rise above the odds. The future looks bright. A dark cloud of uncertainty that has been hanging around us has disappeared. What remains is endless possibilities. I want you to go back and read the story again and read this particular extract to yourself. Okay? Now let's look at the questions asked there. The first question that we get there is refer to line 1. The only time after his funeral that she came to live with us is after the funeral. Learners, I want to point out something to you. When we do line referencing or quoting, we put on the first 3 words, and then we have ellipsis. And at the end of the line, we have the 3 words again. So when you see refer to line 1, it tells you to go back to the passage or to the extract and read again line number 1. When is the first time that Tulisile asks her mother to come and stay with her? When? Do you remember when? Okay, you are correct. After Tulisile buys her house, that was the first time that Tulisile asked her mother to come and stay with her. The second question, refer to lines 4 to 5 instead of feeling. Then it ends with in the way. Explain why Tulisile is feeling anger and not grief at her mother's funeral. She was more angry than sorrowful. And that's her mother's funeral. You'd expect her to feel pain, isn't it? To mourn her mother. But she is really very angry at this moment. Can you explain to us, to me, or to yourself, why is she feeling that angry? Thulisile is overwhelmed with anger at her father's abuse of his family. My father was such an abusive man. And she is also disappointed at her mother for not leaving her father, not standing up for her children. She chose to stay in that abusive relationship, and that made Thulisile very angry. So we get 1 mark for explaining her real anger. That is anger towards her father, and also disappointment at her mother. Let's look at the multiple choice question here. We choose the correct answer to complete the following sentence. Then we write only the letter in the answer book. Thulisile's mother is an injured party. And where do we find that? In line number 6. Why is she referred to as an injured party? Because she is forced into the marriage. Is that correct? Because she is abused by her husband. Is that correct? Or because she is a loving and dedicated mother. Is that correct? D, because she is struggling with alcohol addiction. Which one is correct? Of course, you got it right. B, because she is abused by her husband. Thulisile is an injured party because she is abused by her husband. Let's move right along. Now we refer to lines number 9 to 10. What do these lines tell us about Thulisile's state of mind? How is she feeling at the moment? Right. Then you explain the state of mind and you give evidence, you substantiate. When we ask you to substantiate, you know that you have to explain and give evidence. As an example, Thulisile is irritated, she is upset, or she is frustrated. Why is she feeling that way? Her state of mind? As her mother nearly cost the children their future or happiness. Okay. So we have 1 mark for giving the correct state of mind, and then the second mark for explaining why her state of mind is like that. Why is she upset? Or why is she frustrated? Or why is she irritated? She's irritated because her mother nearly cost her children their future or happiness. Let's refer to lines 15 to 17 as another question. The future looks bright and hopeful. Endless possibilities. Let's identify the figure of speech used in this line. The figure of speech is a metaphor, and that is for 1 mark. We don't stop at identifying a figure of speech, but you will further be asked to explain the figure of speech as it is used in that extract or in the very line. The black cloud, which signifies the children's suffering, has been lifted. It was like a big, huge cloud hanging on them. And now it disappears. There's endless possibilities and hope. What does that indicate? That the future is hopeful. When the cloud moves away, we can see the silver lining. We can see the future. Then we can move on. That's what Thulisile sees there. Why is the following statement false? Young people, when you see such a question, why is the following statement false? We don't want you to explain why it is false. We want you to explain in a way of making the false statement positive. Are you with me? Let's look at this. Thulisile's parents moved away from Madlamine's place to Natal squatter camp. Thulisile's parents moved away from Madlamine's place. Then they moved to Natal squatter camp. Is that correct? No, it is false. But we don't want you to say Thulisile's parents did not move to Natal squatter camp. The only way to do this is Thulisile's parents moved from Madlamine's place to Phambili squatter camp. You change Natal, you put Phambili squatter camp. You do what? You make a false statement correct. You don't explain it. You change. You remove what is negative about the question or what is false about the question. Then you substitute with a correct statement. Even though the question will say, why is the following statement false? It is false because there is an incorrect fact there. And that incorrect fact is Natal. And what do? We put Phambili. Right? That's how we respond to false questions. Okay. Theme question. One of the themes in triumph in the face of adversity is fear, isn't it? Yes, it is fear. The message of the story, the message, theme, what the author wants us to learn. Then we must discuss the theme, and we do that for 3 marks. The discussion of the theme of fear should include the following points, among others. Let's look at the points. Thembekile stays in constant fear when she is introduced to the family as a young bride. It's frightening, isn't it? Here you are, young bride, and you have Madlamini as a mother-in-law, very firm, very strict, very loud, complaining a lot. You would be fearful, isn't it? When her husband abuses her later, she develops fear towards her husband. Instead of her standing up and protecting her children, she's more afraid of her husband. Their children live in fear because of their father's abuse. You can give numerous examples that are grounded in the short story. You do not explain to us what fear means. We all know what fear is, isn't it? I hope you know. But you go back in the story and you look for examples that indicate or points out to fear. You use the pill method. I'm sure your teacher told you. You give a point. Thembekile stays in constant fear. Okay. Then you, as a young bride, you give examples. When you explain, then you give examples. This is what happens to the husband. And then you link it back. She lives in constant fear. And the children lives in constant fear. We have open-ended questions. Thulisile can be pitied. Here we want you to answer critically. Discuss with you. It's an open-ended question. Can you pity Thulisile? Okay, I hear some are saying yes, and Tandide, you're saying no. Yes, you are correct also, but you need to prove to me that you must give me evidence to me for saying no. And you rose there. You must give me evidence why you say yes. Let's hear. Okay. Accept a relevant response which shows an understanding of the following viewpoints. We will award you marks if you prove to us that Thulisile can be pitied. You can respond to yes. You can say yes, she can be pitied. Why can she be pitied? Because she grows up in an abusive home. We feel pity for her. That her father prevents her from achieving her ideals by stealing her money. You pity her for that, isn't it? I'm sure you cried when you realized that the father is stealing from the daughter. She takes over the responsibility of her parents by trying to provide for her brother and sister. And that makes you sad, isn't it? You pity her for that. Rose, on the other hand, says, no, I don't feel pity for her. Thulisile has a support system during these difficult times. She has a granny, she has the shopkeeper, she has the teacher. So I don't feel pity for her. She's a very strong child or woman, young woman. And she overcomes her situation. Therefore, I do not feel pity for her. She's a strong girl. She can make it. And she's resourceful. I don't pity her because she makes use of opportunities and success in life. Therefore, I don't pity her. If you've given us all these points to convince us that you can pity her or you cannot pity her, we will award you relevant marks. But remember, for you saying yes and then you keep quiet about it, and you say no, you don't give us evidence, we will not give you marks. You need to convince us. I'm asking you, can she be pitied? I don't know the answer. I want you to convince me. I want you, Lerato, to say yes, and then you give me the points. And then, Thabo, this time, you're going to tell me no. And then what do? You give me the no points and you convince me. At the end, I will give you, Thabo, your marks. Lerato, on the other hand, I will also give you. You see, we're very happy to give you marks for when you have convinced us that you can think critically and you can give us what? Examples from the story. When you give us examples from the story, we become excited and say, yes, that's my son. Yes, that's my daughter there. Good. Enough about triumph in the face of adversity. We were almost crying. We were almost teary, isn't it? Now let's come to the next story. Forbidden Love. Written by Ken Temba. Can you see the hearts? Where do broken hearts go? Let's look at the summary of the story. It's The story Forbidden Love, written by Ken Temba, is about two people who loved each other deeply and had to hide their feelings. We have Michael, who is black, and then we have Dora, who is colored. The two lovers eventually are exposed when Dora's little brother, Bobby, is told by Dick Peters at his school that his sister had a relationship with a native meaning a black person. And that was unheard of. A fight follows. Bobby wanted to do it to protect the honor of her sister by fighting with Dick Peters. That my sister won't fall in love with a black man. As they were fighting, somebody witnesses the fight. A school teacher, Menir Carles, who is in love with Dora. And he happens to hear that Dora doesn't love him, but rather would love a black man, Michael. And that wounds his pride, isn't it? Menir Carles tries to convince the principal that her family must be told. And against the principal's wishes, he goes tell the whole community about what they considered not kosher. Right. The irony in the story lies in the fact that Dora's brother, has had a relationship with Salome, Mike's sister, from which a child was conceived. Is it not ironic, isn't it? Good, let's go on. Let's look at the themes in Forbidden Love. Again, fear. Told you, it's universal, isn't it? You'll find fear in this story or in the other story or in My Children, My Africa or in Cry the Beloved Country. It is a universal theme. Fear can be in a story told in America or can be a story told in South Africa. So it's something that is universal. Dora and Michael live their lives in fear of their relationship being exposed. It was against the law that there should be love across the Calabar. Dora's brother, Davy, feared that he might be judged for his relationship with Michael's sister, with whom he has a baby. So he decided to do what? To hide that relationship. Dora and Michael, they are in love with colored folks, and they don't want their relationships to be exposed. On the other hand, Davy fears that he doesn't want to be judged. This is kept secret until later when Salome confronts Davy's family. And again, who's Salome? Salome is Michael's sister and the woman who has a child with Davy, Dora's brother. We have another theme there, hypocrisy. Who are hypocrites in the story? Davy is a hypocrite. He has a relationship with a black woman, Salome, and they have an offspring, they have a child together. But on the other hand, he is very brave to stand against the relationship of his sister Dora and a black man who is Salome's brother. David still considers it appropriate to beat Michal up when he also has a relationship with Michal's sister. Beat Michal up, don't fall in love with my sister. What? How dare you, black men, do that? But on the other hand, he has a child with a black woman. It is hypocritical that David does not approve of his sister's relationship with a black man while he has a child with a black woman. So there's a theme of hypocrisy. Now let's read the extract. Salome assists Dora and Mike. Let's see. She pushed a neatly tied bundle of letters to the old man, saying tartly, "And to think I treasured these letters because they came from the only man I ever loved." The old man seemed only then to be suddenly galvanized into life. "Get out! Get out of my house!" he shrieked. Salome kept cool. "Oh no, you don't. If you get tough, I'll take your son to court for not supporting his child for the last 3 years." She turned to her brother. "Mike, you've been asking me all the time who the father of my child was, and I have been silent. I told you it is a man I love, a man who would come into the open if he could, but that his circumstances were exceptional. You thought, Mike, that I was in love with a married man. Well, that is the man. That is the man." She pointed a trembling finger at Davy. "You are the man that I have a child with, that I've kept a secret for long. Today, people must know." The family was stunned. Salome was now heaving with emotion. The old man grabbed the packet of letters and said, "You can't prove it." Salome laughed out. A hard and cruel laugh. When the old man said, "You can't prove that my son has a son with you. There's one letter at home, the one in which your son begged me not to expose him." Then Dora's mother spoke out. My grandchild, oh my God, I must see my grandchild. I must see the child." Remember how the mother for many years, she's been quiet about this. I'm sure she also feared the husband. But today, when she heard that she has a grandson, she jumped and said, "A grandchild, my grandchild, I must see the child." So let's look at the questions. Choose a description from column B that matches the name in column A. When we read stories, learners, please know all your characters, the main characters as well as the minor characters. Michal Shabake, Davy Randolph, Louisa Randolph, Menier Carolse. Then let's look at column B. A spiteful teacher, a racist principal, hypocritical and irresponsible, loving and protective, insecure and prejudiced. The answers? Who is Michael Chabeke? He is loving and protective. Davy Randolph. C. Hypocritical and irresponsible. Louisa Randolph. Insecure and prejudiced. And what about Menier Carolse? How can you define Menier Carolse? He is a spiteful teacher. So we have an E there. We have an A for Michael. We have a D for that. Davy Randolph, we have a C. Louisa, we have an E. And then Menier Carolse, we have an A. Right. D, C, E, A. Right. Let's move right along. Describe the setting of this extract. Where we have just read. Where is it? Let's see where the place is. Did you say Randolph's house? Yes, you are correct. It is taking place at the Randolph's house. What was happening? Or when? When the family is at lunch. Or when Salome exposes David. Or when the Randolph find out that they have a grandchild. So the story, the setting of the story is it's taking place at the Randolph house. So we are answering the when, the where is at Randolph's house. And the where is the when is when the family is out at lunch, or what was taking place. What were they doing? So this is what happened. Okay. The second question. Explain why the old man is suddenly galvanized into life. They say that he is galvanized into life in line 4. When Salome hands the letters Davy wrote to his father, and the realization that his son has a relationship with a black woman, or that he has a black grandson, causes his swift reaction. He's galvanized into life. And probably he wants to do what? Not to embrace Salome and say, oh, I have a grandchild. But he wants to do what? To defend, not my son, even though you have the letters. You can't prove it. You can't prove it. It's not my son. It's not my son. Typical of parents, isn't it? Refer to lines 12 to 13. Well, that is the man. He's pointing the finger at Davy. I have been protecting him a lot of time. For 3 years now. He is the man. Explain the irony in Davy's reaction to his sister's relationship with Mike. Davy is opposed to Mike and Dora's relationship because Mike is black. Yet, he himself has a child with Mike's sister, Salome, who is also black. And we want to see the contrast. We want to see the irony. He is opposed to a relationship, but, yet. So I want to see that when you write. I want to see the irony. For you to earn the 2 marks, you must give us the both sides. That this is what happened, but on the opposite, this is what happened. In love with a black person and fight against it, but he is in the same situation. Both parts must be included for you to earn the marks. Refer to lines 17 to 18. There's one letter at home where he begged me not to expose him. What tone would Salome use in these lines? There's one letter at home where he begged me not to expose him. What tone? Sarcastic, mocking, threatening, confident. I have the letter. I have the letter. So that's very confident, isn't it? And that's sarcastic, and there's also threatening. Remember, she was just told, you can't prove it. You can't prove it. And now she's proving it. So that we give 1 mark. Why would Salome use this tone in these lines? Salome has evidence which is more powerful and very convincing. My darling Salome, you know my circumstances. I beg of you, my darling. You know, if situations were different, I would be coming out and embracing you and our son. You know, I love you very much. You know, this is going to be very sad if our relationship is exposed. So that's convincing, isn't it? And that's powerful. Then the letters Mr. Randolph has roughly seized. He took the letters and said, no, I have the letters. What proof do you have? But there was one letter at home. Or Salome has outwitted Mr. Randolph's tactics of removing all evidence. When he was galvanized into action, he actually did what? Jumped for the letters and took them and said, ho, 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 let's see who wins now. I have the letters. What proof? But our clever Salome had a letter at home. Okay. What do these lines reveal about Mr. Randolph's character? What kind of a man is he? Let's see. Did you say that? Okay. Yes, you are correct. What do these lines reveal about Mrs. Randolph's character? When she said, my grandchild, I want to see the child. Mrs. Randolph, Dora's mother, is unprejudiced. She's tolerant. We give 1 mark. Because she's caring and happy to learn that she has a grandchild. No more afraid of the husband. She's not going to sacrifice her grandchild. She is reconciling. She's not worried about the race of Salome and the child. What she is happy about is that she has a grandchild. Happy news, isn't it? Mr. Randolph and Davy can go and drink water. She's the happy woman. She's one. So you can either say Mrs. Randolph is an unprejudiced woman. She's tolerant because she's caring. She's happy to learn that she has a grandchild. She's reconciling. She's reconciliatory because she's not worried about the race of Salome and the child. Okay. Salome can be admired. Remember what we said about open-ended questions. You have to evaluate. Let's hear. Thabo, can you admire Salome? Lerato there? Can you admire Salome? I hear a no from Thabo again and a yes from Lerato. Convinced me? Right. Let's hear your views. We're going to accept responses from both of you, whether it's a yes or whether it's a no, but must be grounded in the text of the story. She can be trusted. You admire her because she can be trusted with her relationship with David. She kept it a secret. That's admirable, isn't it? She exposes her relationship with David to his family despite their race issues. She loves her brother. She nurses Michael to health. Remember what David did to Michael? And Salome had to do it. Nurse her brother. And I'm sure when she was busy nursing, she was saying, I will reckon with that man who beat up my brother. That's love and caring, isn't it? Thabo refuses and says, I don't admire her. No. Salome could have prevented the attack on Mike if she revealed her secret earlier. So her secret has caused Michael these injuries. Why was she keeping quiet all along? Okay, Thabo, I hear you. Let's hear. Again. She is aware of the risk involved in having a relationship with David. Why did she take a risk of falling in love with a colored man in the first place? Yo, Thabo, really? Okay. She places the lives of Mike and Dora and her own in danger by going to visit the Randolph family about such a sensitive issue. What if they shot at her? What if they beat the three of them? We don't know, man. We don't know. But it's a huge possibility. Okay, I'm convinced. I'll give you a 3 marks. Thabo, Lerato, I'll give you a 3 marks. You've convinced me enough. Right. Your interpretation that Salome can be admired is grounded in the text of the short story. And that's enough. Learners, when you believe in yourself, anything is possible. Anything is possible. At this stage, I'm going to wish you the best of luck on your exam. As you're preparing for your exams, believe in yourself and anything is possible. But please don't go away. Sit there tight. You can't go away without working, without a homework. Let's see the worksheet. I'm going to read through the questions that I want you to attempt on your own. This time I'm not going to give you answers. I want you to work on this. Let's see how you do it. You remember the story Rejection by Mariam Mba? I'm going to read the extract with you. 2 extracts that I'm going to give you, and I'm going to give you questions. Let's see. The narrator receives visitors. Rejection. He praises you for the quarter of a century of marriage in which you gave him all the happiness a wife owes her husband, his family, especially myself, his elder brother. Thank you. You have always held us in respect. You know that we are Mudo's blood. Afterwards, there were the same old ways, which were intended to relieve the situation. You are the only one in your house, no matter how big it is, no matter how dear life is. You are the first wife, a mother for Mudo, a friend for Mudo. Tamsin Adams' apple danced about in his throat. He shook his left leg, crossed over his folded right leg. His shoes, with Turkish slippers, were covered with a thin layer of red dust, the color of the earth in which they had walked. The same dust covered Mudo's and the Imam's shoes. Modo said nothing. He was reliving his own experience. He was thinking of your letter, your reaction, and you and I were so alike. He was being wary. He kept his head lowered in the attitude of those who accept defeat before the battle. I acquiesced under the drops of poison that were burning me, a quarter of a century of marriage, a wife unparalleled. And today, he's doing this to me. It was drinking drops of poison. Learners, I want you to match column A with column B. Tamsin, Modo, Daba, Mudo. One of the narrator's daughters, the narrator's errant husband, friend of the narrator's husband, write a letter to the narrator's brother-in-law. This you will answer in your books. Ma'am and say then, please help them. Right. The second question. Describe the setting of this extract. Remember, when you describe the setting, you're going to give us 2 responses. The when and the where. When, where did this extract take place and what was happening? Right. Your third question. Explain why Modo keeps his head lowered. There is an explanation, and I want you to give us the response on that. Remember what I said about the false question? Why is the following statement false? The you, line 14, is the narrator's sister. You, in line 14, is the narrator's sister. So you are going to change what is wrong there and give us the right answer. Refer to line 17. You are going to read the whole line 17. I acquiesced under my breath where Benjamin, the poison, was Benjamin. Identify the figure of speech used in this line. And when you are done, explain this figure of speech as used in the extract. It cannot be a full assessment if we don't have a question on themes. One of the themes in rejection is what? Betrayal. So I want you to discuss that theme. Remember to give examples from the short story. Now I'm directing you to read or to go to the whole story. Do you have sympathy for the narrator? We have had answers from Thabo and Lerato. Now I want all of you to give us your yes response and then your no response, whether you sympathize with the narrator. I'm going to read yet another extract from Forbidden Love by Ken Temba. It is not a full assessment if we do not have 2 extracts of a short story. Not just 2 extracts, but 2 stories. Remember that. Forbidden Love, chaos erupts on the school grounds. He looked at the circle of boys wistfully. He knew what they were doing now during these precious few minutes before lessons started. They were teasing each other in the age-old school tradition, probably vulgar. The naughty little scamps, he thought tolerantly as his mind went back to his own school days as a youngster. Then he hurried away to Aunt Sunny's house for that daily cup of coffee. Meanwhile, Freddie Williams, the sandy-haired, smart-looking youngster, sped across the playground to the history classroom. Freddie was not going to miss that morning session of the local Tees Club, but gee, they got Bobby Randolph at last. They've been looking for him for this moment. Freddie had met Dick Peters that morning on their way to school, and that internal victim of Bobby Randolph, tease-tongued, had intimated to Freddie that he had a bombshell with which he was going to blow Bobby to bits and blazes. That is why, as he went flying over the playground, Freddie had shouted to the gang already assembled, "Wait for me! Wait for me!" Dick Peters did wait for Freddie. He wanted a full audience, and he wanted to make sure that his friend Freddie was present in case of any fighting. Freddie was still gasping for breath when Dick stood up, faced Bobby, and exploded his bombshell without finesse or ceremony. Ta-da! Continue reading the extract from the book. Now the questions. Sorry. Refer to lines 1 to 5. He looked at the youngsters. Who is this he in line 1? What do these lines tell you about this person's state of mind? then you substantiate your answer. Remember, he remembered his old, he reminisced about his young days as a student. Then choose the correct answer to complete the following sentence. The word wistful means. You have dictionaries, isn't it? Yes, you have. What is wistful? Is it scornfully? Is it teasingly? Longingly? Tolerantly? Check, check, check. Okay, write the answer down. Refer to lines 10 to 13. Freddie had met bits and blazers. He was ready. What tone would Dick Peters use when he said that he had a bombshell with which he was going to blow Bobby to bits and blazers? I have the blitz and blazers and I'm going to blow Bobby away. Why would Dick Peters use this tone in this line? Yes, okay, you are writing. Now I want you to explain the irony of Dick Peters wanting a full audience when he drops his bombshell in line 20. Full audience. Why is Freddie gasping for breath in line 19? Give me 2 points. He is gasping for breath. Explain what is meant by Dick exploded his bombshell without finesse and or ceremony in line 20. Yes, think again. Okay, right? Right. Put it down on paper. What does this extract reveal about Freddie's character? What kind of person is Freddie? Huh? Yes? You give us the character trait? Yes, write it down. Then give us an explanation why you say he is that character trait that you have given. Lastly, Mike can be admired. Can you admire Mike? Right. I want you to state your view. I want you to state your view. Why he can be admired. Learners, thank you for watching this lesson. Please remember to prepare yourself well for the upcoming exams. Go read your 8 short stories again. Try and respond to the questions that we have done today. You need to be well prepared. Thank you for watching. See you next time and goodbye.